Look, I get it. People like Splatoon. However, it could be better. It could be awesome. It could be a Battle Royale. Now, I know what you're thinking. How in the ever-loving could Splatoon possibly work as something as complex as a Battle Royale? I mean, we're functionally just making Fortnite, right? Wrong. Now you can feel good for not having good aim. Splatoon hasn't changed in the 7 years it's been around. Sure, there's been a few new modes, but that really boils down to fish, clams, and cards. And yeah, the Octo expansion was a really refreshing change of pace. However, that was paid DLC that fundamentally only existed to add Octolings. And surprise, surprise, here they are in 3 front and center. But that's besides the point. If we were given the reins and asked the question of, hey, how would you make Splatoon awesome? My first thought would be a unique take on the Battle Royale. But how would that even work? Simple, let me explain. Splatoon 3's whole shtick is all about chaos. It won the last Splatfest, and you know what happened last time. So with this whole Mad Max, Lego Movie 2, post-apocalyptic thing they're doing, having a larger scale battlefield would feel right at home. That's because it's not a Battle Royale, it's a Splattle Royale. And it takes place here, in real-life Paris, France. And because I'm unoriginal, let's just call it the Splattlefield. You think you can make a better name? Let me know below, and while you're down there, subscribe. How the Splattle Royale would go down is the standard Fall Guys fare, 60 people per lobby. This is because 100 is just too much for the Switch, and 60 can accommodate singles, duos, trios, this is Splatoon 3 after all, and squads. So I think we could just jump into it, and I mean that quite literally. By attaching a massive spawn pad, kettle, or whatever he wants, Sheldon retrofitted his quirky mobile stage from the final battle of Splatoon 2's single player into a massive spawn that can carry a large volume of people. This way, assets can be reused and remixed, so stuff like Splatfest, holiday events, and other miscellaneous things can make the truck feel more festive. Hell, it doesn't even have to be Sheldon driving it. It could be one of those staff people, or Spike, or Krusty Sean, or even Mr. Coco. At the start of the match, you choose where to drop in, either to any of the locales or any space in between. However, unlike Fortnite, PUBG, or wherever, you can't drift over to where you want to go. It's Splatoon. You'll super jump and you'll like it. This time, let's go over here to the Oyster Overhang. Perfect, it doesn't look like anyone's shown up yet. In the meantime, let me explain how everything works. The Splattle Royale is a little different than the other modes in terms of how you go about things, and we can see how this works with the 4 major changes that we've come up with for this concept. In other modes like Turf War or Anarchy Battle, you already know what everyone is going to have. If they have the Tri-Stringer, they're going to have the Toxic Mist and Killer Whale 5.1. The Splat Dualies will have Suction Bombs and Crab Tanks, Splat Rollers will have Curling Bombs and Big Bubblers, and so on and so forth. Salmon Run is a little different as everyone has Splat Bombs, however, each player does have random specials each game, and that's not even mentioning the fact that every single wave has you changing weapons each time. So one game you could be dominating every salmon with the Splash-O-Matic, and the next floundering with the Goo Tuber. This time around in the Splattle Royale, you'll basically be on your own with your main weapon of choice, and in the beginning, that's all you'll get. Now obviously, you'll still have all the capabilities of said weapon, those aren't really limited, so if you have the Splatana, you'll still get access to all those slash options and dashes. The dualies still get their rolls, and the rollers retain their flicks. In addition to that, the Squid Roll and Surge are still present as well. No movement options will be changed with this mode. However, when it comes to ink, well, we'll get to that later. Let's move on in the meantime. You'll have to look around for little weapon capsules like seen in the single player modes, and inside will be a sub-weapon. You can also find these in large orange crates dotted around the map. These act as chests or weapon caches. Alternatively, for readability and less randomness, you could have color coding or design changes of the capsule to indicate which one it'll be. But that's not really important for the context of this video. However, there's 2 other capsule types that look like this and this, containing special weapons and armor pieces. All the sub-weapons in 3 would be present here, but I think it'd be pretty limiting to only have 1 sub-weapon for an entire 15 to 20 minute match, which brings us to our second major change, multiple sub-weapons. I think, for game balancing purposes, you would have spots for 3 different sub-weapons that you'd rotate through with the left bumper or pressing left or right on the D-pad. Each sub-weapon you pick up takes an inventory slot, and once they're filled, any new ones you pick up will replace an old one, dropping it on the floor. Same goes for specials, however, you can only carry one special weapon at a time, meaning you can't have both the Tri-Strike and the Reef Slider at the same time.
This is just Fortnite.
No, because Fortnite weapons are limited in its use. Everything requires a resource. However, sub-weapons use ink, so that's the only resource you have to worry about. Actually, while I'm on this topic, let's just deal with it right now. Ink is a vital resource that you have to maintain, as it is used for everything. Covering turf, moving around, refilling ammo, and using secondary weapons are all dependent on this. And honestly, there's a lot to go through with how ink is implemented here. Firstly, the way that ink works in normal gameplay still stands here today. Swim in ink, recharge in ink, climb walls in ink, etc. However, we're out here in real-world Paris, France, meaning that a water-based liquid like ink, like water, after a while will just dry. This could lead to some tricky plays here, but also some tactical advantage, as if left for long enough, the ink will just dry up and go away, effectively making where you were a mystery. Granted, this also means that you could potentially run out of ink, leaving you out in the open. Sub-weapons, depending on what it is, takes different amounts of the ink, and specials just consume all of it outright. Smart players will manage ink effectively. There was a very intentional reason for this change though. This is to guarantee that people who only cover turf don't always have the advantage, so it de-incentivizes that type of play. There's also another thing that I haven't mentioned when it comes to ink. As you've probably seen, every weapon is a different color and can be shown in this lineup here. Note that no 2 colors are the same. They're distinct enough to be immediately noticeable. This means a few things. People who use the same weapon can swim in each other's ink. Granted, you will get hurt if you are directly hit with an attack from their weapon. You also cannot change the color of the ink. If you use umbrella, it will always be magenta. But this doesn't mean that you'll have a small canister of ink. Well, kinda. At the start, you'll have the standard ink tank, and let's just assign this capacity as 100. Throughout the map, you'll find canisters that'll refill and raise the max amount of ink that you can carry at a time. And get this, they're called increases.
That's fucking stupid.
Oh, okay, I don't really care. Increasers can up the max capacity of your ink tank by 25% and can stack up to 200% total. This will drastically affect how you think about weapon use, subs, specials, etc., because you might have more ink than you can normally hold, but the refill speed while submerged in ink is still the same. I think that really does it for the ink segment, and just in time too. The rain is starting to come by the area, so we better get a move on. I would prefer not to melt in the rain today. That's another thing we should probably talk about, huh? This may take place in real-world Paris, France, but what the hell is even here? What's the deal with that? Coming in at roughly half the size of the Fortnite island, the Splattle field has 8 major locales that you can visit, loot, and wage war at. And this goes into change 4, stage design. Every locale is asymmetrical and is larger than the average turf war map. So let's just go through all of them. First, as you saw previously, is Oyster Overhang. It's a suspended set of buildings that overlook some other locales built into some sheer cliffs. The houses are spread out pretty far, but in them are some nice items that you can use. Be careful though, below the overhang aren't any ways to directly get back up, so you'd have to go the long way if you'd like to get back up there on foot. As you can see, there's turrets and grapplings dotted throughout the area. I think in order to break up the flow for more interesting set design, we're implementing in single-player interactable objects. Be prepared, as you'll see a lot more of them in the future. Off to the left there is the Coral Canyon, a large depression in the earth with lots of ledges. It's great for long-range combat. At the bottom tends to be some neat items, so that's a good reason to travel downwards. The walls are steep though, so watch your step. The floor is open and flat for close quarters warfare as well, and the big traversal options here are rails, grapplings, and speed ramps, so this pit can be a big hotspot for anything and everything. Around back is the Buoy Bunker, a supposedly human-made bunker that has been long since abandoned. It houses a maze of rooms with big doors that take solving a puzzle in order to enter. Inside of those are goodies. You can explore the rafters and vents, which provide an alternate entrance. It's a deviously crafted area that incentivizes stealth. It's larger than it looks, with traps and puzzles to keep players busy. There's an open area that branches off into these places, but all in all, it's a closed off bunker that keeps everyone on their toes. In the bunker, there's a lot of fun things that you can play with there. Propellers, splat switches, big ink furlers, and ink pistons are all present in different parts of the buoy bunker and could lead to some fun trapping opportunities. Moving on, Triton Trail, a smooth block of land that is encased between two walls. It is a simple but safe area. There's not really much here in terms of gimmicks or items, but it is just a nice neutral ground. It has some decent spoils that you can use in the game. Its whole purpose is that it connects the buoy bunker and our next location, the Plundered Pillars. The Plundered Pillars are similar in structure to the general long, thin rock pillars that also have speed panels at various points that, with precision, would allow you to scale it, but not easily, of course. There's wreckage at the bottom that mess with player movement. If you choose to explore, in the deepest parts of these wrecks are loot. However, the pillars are really high, so in order to make it more manageable to get up there, bounce pads are installed to not only make it easier, but more fun. Up next is the Seafloor Subterrane. It's a cave connecting the north and west ends of the map. There are sponges with stalagmites overhead that drips water to shrink the sponges regularly. The subterrane is filled with walls and corners that lead to some tricky plays. It is also dimly lit, only lit up by some bioluminescent paint on the walls, as well as some sea cucumbers. Ink furlers are also present here to allow safe passage through the tough terrain. Resurfacing from there leads to the most lush part of the Splattle field, the Manatee Mangrove. It's a jungle with twists and turns where it's easy to get lost. There's patches of water that will hinder your movement because it'll kill you. The trunks of the trees can be inked and climbed over to reach the relatively flat top of them, and toppled over trees act as ramps as well. But that's not all, folks, as sprinkled around the mangrove is a bunch of sponges and bounce pads, effectively cementing a two-plane fighting ground. And I think that's all there is to go over with the locations. The range should be out of our hair now, but I do wonder where else we should go. We should probably talk about the mammal monolith. The Eiffel Tower has been flipped on its head and is now climbable. It is very thin and narrow, with better goodies the higher up you go. Squeegees are all over the walls, with the industrial variety patrolling the bottom. Rails spiral around the tower, as well as a few rails running through them for added chaos. This is definitely the centerpiece of the Splattle field. However, there's a very high risk factor, but consistently would have some of the better rewards. The fact I've survived for this long is honestly baffling, but I can't help but wonder about something. What am I missing?
Ha! Gotcha, sneaky fucker!
Oh yeah, we should probably talk about what happens at the end. Once you defeat the final player, because this is a Battle Royale after all, the last one standing wins, you are sent to the rewards screen.
My nuts hurt.
Here you'll see the post-game rundown, the amount of kills you had, the weapons you used, etc. The main thing I'd like to highlight here is actually the points meter. This acts in the same way that it does for Salmon Run, however, because of the longer fights, you'll usually net more points playing this than a game of Salmon Run. Those points go towards rewards and such, like gold, Sheldon vouchers, gear, cosmetics, etc. Wait, cosmetics? What's that about? Cosmetics are something that is unique to the Battle Royale, being alternate skins for the weapons that you can equip before heading into a map. Actually, let's end off with that. You take a train to the Splattle fields, and in here acts like the main menu. Here you can set your game mode as well as change your appearance as well as weapon. As you saw before, the weapons are the standard 11 classes: shooters, blasters, chargers, rollers, brushes, sloshers, splatlings, dualies, brellas, stringers, and splatanas. However, to double down, I want to make it clear that you'll be getting the standard version of all of these weapons. So all of these here. However, that's where the cosmetics come in. With cosmetics, you'll get the appearance of a weapon without making a gameplay difference with different stats and whatnot. Sure, that may look like an arrow spray, but it sure doesn't act like one. You can also change gear here, and to make things more interesting, we made the gear only allow the primary ability on its person. None of the secondary abilities will be present. This would allow for a broad range of customization that you really wouldn't see in the single player or Salmon Run modes. And once everyone's ready, they are hoisted back onto the mobile stage and the cycle begins anew. So what do you think about this? What could be improved? I'm all ears, so why don't you tell me about it?